Layla. Monic. Is Monique coming? Oh yeah. I think everybody who's on our Tom. Is Tom here? Yes. Yeah. Oh, we got him. So maybe you should start.
Can everyone just take a deep breath? That's what the Amazon gives us. It gives us oxygen, gives us life. So, gives us water. And I just want to thank you once again, Ryan. Let's give it up for Ryan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. I think that's due. It's long overdue. While you've been in 30 film festivals, I think, dedicating 10 years of your life to documenting and telling the story, that is a timeless story. Sitting and watching it for the second time, it's reminders of time in the rainforest, and also reminders of this timeless story that indigenous peoples of the Americas, indigenous peoples of the world have been facing for all time. And so just to recognize that this is the most biodiverse terrestrial ecosystem on the planet, and it is home to both biological and cultural diversity. And the Amazon rainforest is the most biodiverse place on the planet, but it's also one of the most culturally diverse places on the planet. Over 400 distinct indigenous peoples, plus uncontacted peoples, live and inhabit and take care of and protect the rainforest. So that's why we're here today, to acknowledge that, to appreciate that life and the biodiversity, the cultural diversity, and what the Amazon gives us, for all of us: oxygen and air to breathe. And life, water is life. So my name is Leila Salazar Lopez, and I'm Chicana, Latina, originally from Southern California. It's good to be home. It's hot. But I'm also a mother, and I'm the executive director of Amazon Watch, and I'm very proud to be here with all of you today. And one thing that I want to add before we start the panel is that the oil from the Amazon, guess where it's going? Anyone have a wild guess? China? Here? 50% of the oil from the Amazon is coming right here to California. The majority of it is coming right here to El Segundo, to Wilmington, to be refined here. So the rest is going to the Bay Area, to Tesoro and Denver refineries. Some of it is going to Louisiana, some of it's going to Houston. So what we've done, and we've seen, for decades, we've seen the destruction, the toxic legacy that was left by Texaco, Chevron, and many oil companies to follow, including the State Oil Company. And many of those companies have left. And now one of the major reasons why oil continues to come out of the Amazon, in Ecuador in particular, is because of the debt to China. And Ecuador has to pay back its debt to China in oil. And much of the oil that's coming out of the Amazon, as I mentioned, over 50% of it is coming here to California. And the reason why there's continued pressure on the indigenous people in the lands of the Amazon is to pay back debt. So as Ryan mentioned in the film, it's a few weeks worth of oil. Is it worth it? Is it worth the loss of biological and cultural diversity and continued threat to our planet, to Mother Earth, for a few weeks worth of oil? Is it? No. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to sit down and introduce our panel. And I know it's getting late, but we're going to talk a little bit, and we're going to hear a little bit more from Ryan, the filmmaker. We're going to hear from Tom Smith, sitting next to me, the founding director of the UCLA Center for Tropical Research. We're going to hear from Lydia Ponce, who I just learned is from Sinaloa, where my parents are from. So, ay.
No worries, I love her.
Ay. Disculpa. Monic. We're all brothers and sisters. Monic, disculpa, organizer for the People Not Pozos and promoter of Esperanza Community Housing. And Teresa, no? See, the names changed. Originally it was going to be Grandmother Gloria, so that's why I was confused. Sorry, Lydia Ponce, Associate Director of AIM, Southern California. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your prayer earlier. Thank you for allowing us to be here on Indigenous land. So, Ryan, tell us a little bit more about, if you have, do you want to share anything, any thoughts after seeing the film again and being here in front of the audience?
You know, I've seen the movie now, I think, about 300 times. So I don't know if I have anything good to say about, you know, it's like once you watch a movie too many times, you kind of get lost in your own thoughts. What I can tell you is that the last time that I was in Ecuador was about 11 months ago. We had a small Kickstarter campaign to get all 33 people from the Guarani community out of the Amazon and bring them into Quito to a film festival so they could represent themselves in front of their own nation. We raised $6,000 to get all those people there, and it was really powerful, but they're still experiencing a huge amount of turmoil internally between families. You know, the Guarani nation is very spread out over a massive area, and we're continuing to see the exploitation of the oil blocks in this region, the exploitation of the people of the region, and exploitation of the biodiversity.
So let's transition to Tom, who's the expert in the biological diversity of the rainforests. And scientists have come to understand the importance of the tropical forests, and this is what indigenous peoples have known forever. Tell us a little bit more about your work and in the rainforest.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, first of all, wonderful film, Ryan, just outstanding. I think it was just an incredible experience to watch. You know, I want to just say something about YASUNI for folks. You know, as someone who's been studying rainforests most of their lives, it is really the jewel of the crown. You know, it's the diversity in YASUNI that Ryan has helped to document is unparalleled. You know, within a single few hectares, you can find over 100,000 species of insects. I mean, this is a really extraordinary place on the planet. And it may be floating on oil, but we have so much to lose if we lose YASUNI. I should say a little bit about my own work, I guess. In the 1990s, we started working on rainforests worldwide, and we wanted to try to understand several things about rainforests. First, we wanted to understand the processes that generate and maintain rainforests. You know, how are species generated? Why do they accumulate in places like Yasuni? We also wanted to take that science we were doing in order to begin to impact how we can, and figure out how we can conserve rainforests. And so that was sort of the second issue that we were focused on. And then finally, the third question was, how can we better conserve these areas and the local folks that are living in and around these areas, especially indigenous groups. So in Ecuador, we started about a 5-year project where we were looking at the mechanisms that generate rainforests. And what we discovered was that the gradients from lowlands to highlands were critically important. And so if we think of the lowlands in Yasuni, connecting Yasuni to highland areas, along those ecological gradients were what we found to be generating new species. And if we want to preserve biodiversity in the long term, we need to understand that we need to connect the highlands and the lowlands. So that was one point I wanted to make. We're also been doing very similar work in Central Africa, and you know, it's amazing the similarities in terms of impacts that you're seeing. What we find in Central Africa is that the gradients between lowland forest and savannas are actually very important and need to be protected. And so some of the things that we're focused on in Central Africa are to basically to create, to bring the best scientific knowledge to understanding these processes, and create new institutions. So we recently created the Congo Basin Institute, and which is 3 years old now. It's UCLA's first foreign affiliate. And we're working to try to stem the brain drain and address some of these issues, many of which you heard in the film tonight, such as indigenous issues. So we have in the fall we have a new school for indigenous knowledge that's we hope to be starting up, focused around Baka indigenous knowledge, preserving it, and also bringing opportunities into the region for those indigenous people so they can still maintain their knowledge while live fruitful lives.
Thank you. So now I want to turn it over to Lydia Ponce, the Associate Director of AIM in Southern California, and also a leader with SoCal 350 and I Don't Know More, SoCal. You know, at Amazon Watch, we work in support and in solidarity with indigenous people because we know that indigenous peoples are the best protectors of Mother Earth. So why do you think it's so important for indigenous peoples to be leading in climate justice?
That is such a wonderful question, and I want to first thank you, though, for really having the respect and the kindness and the compassion to have them, you know, tell their own story, and essentially holding the cameras and the microphones. It must not have been easy going through the mud and the terrain, but thank you for your heart's work. And thank your mother for doing an awesome job because, you know, come on. Thank you. I'm a grandmother, and I've been thinking about growing up as a little girl that, you know, liberty and justice for all and that whole paradigm of public school and everything that I was taught and untaught by my brother at home, you know, every day. And in the context of today and right now, I had left a march at MacArthur Park for the children that have been kidnapped, taken from their parents at the borders and otherwise on the streets all over here in California and all over the United States. The context is, as indigenous people, we continue to be divided by ourselves, by the colonization, by not naming ourselves, by giving up our power of who we are to pieces of paper that are deemed so important and relished and valued at our spirit and our heart, because you have to go back to the first and formal prior consent. If there was consultation globally, indigenously, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in now. I think we might be at the halfway point. And I'm not the only grandmother, I'm not the only mother. And at the same time, you know, what about the UN drip? Yet another piece of paper. And what about the Constitution? So what does that mean for us, especially in Los Angeles, is to say we're having those hard conversations with Andy Schrader, his leadership, and we have a steering committee, and inspired by yet another mother, Naomi Klein, and her family and her wordsmithing, her spirit that resonates truth to the power of what she's written. We're writing the LEAP manifesto, the LEAP LA manifesto, and while we're hoping to be blessed by 2025, and I always say sooner, but that's just the way I work, to be fossil free, to be carbon free. And it's hard because we have the families that are affected and impacted by this in their front yards, while they cook, while their children are doing their homework. You know, in Wilmington, Carson, San Pedro, Long Beach. And so this is an impactful day as a grandmother, and it's such an honor to be able to connect internationally, nationally, and to be able to say that I'm sitting with a mother whose community has suffered on the front lines, and that is now full circle. We need to provide the opportunity and the space for our frontline communities and the indigenous to have a seat at the table and to basically tell us how to decolonize, how to get off this addiction of oil, and basically, essentially, allow them also to tell us when we're not doing it right, that we're doing it incorrectly, because there has to be that impactful trust to build a better future. If we can save the Yasuni tribe, if we can save the people there, it's essentially saving ourselves. And for anybody who doesn't see that, then we just need to visit with them a little bit longer, and you know, and be patient with them, but guide them to this truth. And I'd like to pass the mic back to you. I don't know who's next, but I'm so blessed to be on the steering committee. And there'll be more coming up about the LEAP manifesto. And SoCal 350, intersectionality is everything, and on the forefront. We're making some beautiful changes and rearranging our lives to be able to trust each other with our lives, to be able to trust each other for a clean glass of water, for clean food, as it were, a cleaner environment for all of our children. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Monique, again, an organizer with People Not Pozos. Does everybody know what pozos are? Wells. People Not Pozos, and the promoter for the Esperanza. I know it's getting late, but we're not done yet. Monique, what does a just transition look like here in LA? What do you think people should do here in LA to support, your work here in LA?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you. Ryan, thank you so much for this amazing, amazing film. Thank you for educating us about this issue. And everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good. That's just a test to see if you are awake. If I understand correctly your question, can you repeat the question?
You could say whatever you want to talk
Perfect.
about, but
Even
how do you want people to get
Perfect.
involved? I mean, I think that's what everyone wants to know. What can I do right here?
And
What's happening here in LA?
I'm a hyper person. I'm sorry. I'm not able to sit down for a long time. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother as well, but also I'm a fighter. I'm a ¿cómo se dice guerrera? Warrior as well. When I came to this country, I'm not an immigrant. I'm part of this continent before people came and colonized and conquest us. I'm on my own land, for the land of my ancestors. But when I came to this country, I came with the idea to provide my kids a better life. I never imagined that I need to fight against an oil industry to provide the better life to my families. I, from South Los Angeles, and our community are facing this same oil industry from the Amazons came to our neighborhood, and also they drill in our own backyards. In our community, as a mothers, we start a conversation between like, it smells so horrible, I don't know what's wrong. Or the conversation between us like, my son or my daughter has a nosebleed, or an asthma attack, or itchy throat. And if you don't understand my English, I try your hard. Nosebleeds. Watery eyes. A lot of people in our community are experience these health symptoms or more. And sometimes we used to have this run to the emergency room because we don't know what's wrong with my kids. On my personal experience, I have a daughter, now she's 17. She developed heart problems. She has asthma now. I need to run to the ER because she has a tremendous headache, and they refer to neurologists, cardiologists, gastroenterologists, many ologists, and nobody know. They never give me a specific problem for my daughter. Unfortunately, she was not the only one. Was dozens of kids in South Los Angeles who has the same problem. We noticed there was an oil well right there in middle of us. And we start making, and they have a leak, and we start calling in a governmental agency, South Coast AQMD, and making complaints and complaints and complaints. In 1 week, we filed more than 350 complaints. But guess what? Nobody paid attention to us because we are people of color, because we are low-income community. And it's not fair. It's not just. We fighting, we make a lot of noise, and now for the last 4.5 years, the oil called Alenco is closed. Thank you. And other thing that is shameful is that the land for the company is owned by Los Angeles Archdiocese. If somebody here is Catholic, please call the Archdiocese and say, end the lease. And it's not holy emissions, all right? They are not holy emissions right there. Other thing is, we noticed that we are not the only community fighting for that. Half a mile from there is another community fighting against oil drilling, another and another. And we stand a coalition called Stand LA, Stand Together Against Neighborhood Drilling. We are fighting to end neighborhood drilling, to establish and pass an ordinance of 2,500 buffer between oil drilling and censored land. Hospitals, schools, churches, wherever we are people living, work, or pray. We have a town hall meeting this June 23. Is postcards on the lobby. Please join us to ask our some politician right here, some council district representative right here. I want to invite everybody to attend that town hall meeting and hear from our community that we need to stop and end neighborhood drilling because they are making us sick. They are making sick not only our bodies, but the water, the air, and the land. And it's not necessary. We need to switch to renewable energy. We can do it. Let's do it.
All right, so before everybody leaves, I want to invite you all to take action. By any chance, can we get the slides up for the actions? There's some slides to thank our hosts and our sponsors, and also to invite everyone to take action. While we're getting up the slides, what we're talking about right now is making the connection between drilling in California, drilling in our backyards, and drilling in the Amazon. It's all connected. The drilling that takes place in the Amazon affects the communities there, affects the biodiversity there, affects the air there, it affects our climate, and that oil is transported on ships all across the ocean, and it comes right here to California. And where does it go? Where are those refineries? Wilmington, El Segundo. Who lives there? Brown and black people, communities of color, poor people, predominantly. And so what we're saying is the frontline communities, the communities who are on the front lines of these refineries, the front lines of where the wells are, and the indigenous people, we are standing together. We're standing together to say no more. No more extraction. We need a commitment from our government to stop this. So how many of you know about what's happening in September here in California? All right, I'm going to tell you. Our governor, Jerry Brown, has committed for California to be the global climate leader. Obviously, our federal government is not doing it. Our federal government is rolling back environmental laws, is continuing the fossil fuel frontier, like many other governments and corporations are. The state of California is a climate leader in many, many ways. And Governor Jerry Brown he's retiring. And his legacy, he wants his legacy to be climate leadership. So Jerry Brown has invited the world to come to California in September for a Global Climate Action Summit. And his legacy, he wants his legacy to be the climate leader. What we're saying is to be a climate leader, we need you to make a commitment to no new extraction in California. No new extraction and a commitment to a managed decline of fossil fuels. And that's not just me saying it. There's over 750 organizations in the state of California that have signed on to a pledge called Brown's Last Chance. And we're giving Brown a last chance to really be a truly a climate leader. If Governor Brown in the state of California could do it, many others will follow. And so we're saying no new extraction from California to the Amazon, and we are calling for the biggest climate action, the biggest march for climate action and for climate justice in history here on the West Coast on September 8th. And on your way out, please pick up one of these postcards so you can get more information about the climate march. And right now, I need you to take out your cell phone. Everyone has a cell phone. Come on, get them out. Get your cell phones out. This is when you don't need to turn them on so that they ring, but turn them on. And take this action right now. I'm going to do it. Tweet. Here's a sample. You go to Where do you go? Here's some samples. Brown's Last Chance, End Amazon Crude. Here's some hashtags, I should say. And basically our message to Governor Brown is keep it in the ground from California to the Amazon. There's some sample hashtags, keep it in the ground, End Amazon Crude, Brown's Last Chance. Take action right now. You can go to amazonwatch.org. You can go to brownslastchance.org. Follow us on our websites. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media. Take action, share the action, and join us in September. And we're going to end with a song. I was inspired. I'm not a singer, but I spend a lot of time with indigenous people from the north and south, and in particular with grandmothers and sisters that have signed the Indigenous Women's Treaty of the Americas. And we do lots of marches, and we do lots of prayer circles, and we do lots of singing. And we have a song that a lot of us don't even know where it comes from, but it's the Keep It in the Ground song. So everyone stand up. And if you know it, please sing with me, because I'm not a singer, but I just love singing this song all together, and I feel like it'll be a good way to end the night and before we go to the reception and keep talking. So, people gonna rise like the water. We're gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. You guys have to sing with me. People gonna rise like the water, gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. Come on, people. Keep it in the ground. Water is life. Defend the Amazon. Stand with indigenous peoples. And stand with us from California to the Amazon. We're going to keep it in the ground. Come to San Francisco. If you can't come to San Francisco on September 8th, organize your own action here. Get in touch with SoCal 350, Jack, Lydia, Monic. Get organized in your own community, in your own home. Our children, our future generations, Mother Earth, the Amazon, indigenous peoples are depending on us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.